Alright, welcome back to the Rocket Channel. Today we're going to be building a Madcow 2.6 inch Nike Smoke. This was on sale semi-recently, I think. It's been sitting in my garage for a while now, so I can't quite remember when I got it, but obviously this is a Wildman tube. This appears to be a Curtis gel coat nose cone, although I have no confirmation of that. It had a really long shoulder. From what I gathered, this seems like to me it feels like Madcow found a box of nose cones and did a run of kits and discounted them, but I don't know if that's true or not. But anyway, this gel coat nose cone came with a really long shoulder on it, and it really did not fit. There's also some gel coat blemishes where there wasn't enough gel coat, and it kind of you could kind of push your finger through it, but luckily most of those were like on the bottom of this shoulder, and so I cut it down to a normal length, or something close to a normal length, and sanded it so that it fits real nice now. So that's great. Happy with that. Wildman tube. I don't know who made the fins, but 4 16th inch G10 fins, a bulkhead for the nose cone to attach your shock cord, 2 eye bolts. I thought this was a nice addition in the kit is rail buttons with standoffs, which is to clear that Nike Smoke nose cone, which is always nice. We can get that going on. I'm going to be adding an aero pack retainer to it. We've got a 38mm motor mount. Came with a United States vinyl cut decal, a Madcow sticker, always nice, and some 9/16 tubular nylon. Overall, happy with the kit so far and the quality of everything. The one problem I've had was the centering rings are just cut way too big. They fit in the tube nicely, but the hole in the center is just too big. So no problem, I just won't use those, and I cut 2 out of 1/4 inch birch plywood. And these fit great. And that's what we're going to use for the motor mount. I also just decided that I'm going to add a liter of this 1/2 inch Kevlar pull tape, because I recently, like a lot of other people, bought a very large quantity from Chris Short, because he was selling it for like 5 cents a foot or something, I don't remember, but very cheap. So this is a good size rocket to use it in. I'm just going to do a liter glued to the motor mount, so I'm actually won't use one of those eye bolts. I'll glue this straight to the motor mount, and I notched one of the centering rings to allow that to pass through. That'll give us some protection on the shock cord from the ejection charge, since it will be flown motor deploy. I'm not going to add electronics to it. So let's get going. Okay, the motor mount is done. We got an aero pack retainer here. Went ahead and just put that on. Used the quick JB weld and some regular 5-minute epoxy down those Kevlar straps, and put some fillets on the centering rings. It's not super pretty, but it doesn't need to be. I'm using the JB weld on this. I like to use that on my smaller rockets just because, well, it doesn't really need to be fancy, and it's already thickened. So it's mostly me being lazy, but it's it's convenient, so there's something to be said for that. But all right, well, we're gonna put this in the body tube and then put some fins in. All right, and just like that, we have something that looks like a Nike Smoke. So I went ahead and glued the motor mount in, obviously. It wasn't that exciting, so I didn't really film this stuff. Also, I forgot to mention before, this is a fiberglass kit, so before I started, I sanded all the bonding surfaces so that the epoxy can get a mechanical bond. I epoxied the bulk plate into the nose cone, which you can see, and tacked the fins in with CA. We're just going super bare bones and simple. So the fins are just tacked in with CA, and then I'm gonna mask off and do some JB Weld fillets. And then it's pretty much gonna be ready for paint. Oh, and I went ahead and drew a center line and put the rail buttons on, which I'll take those out before paint, but so much easier to put rail buttons in before you paint, and so I always try to make sure I don't forget to do that, especially on a rock like this. So since I ended up having to cut those 1/4 inch plywood centering rings to replace the fiberglass ones that came with the kit, I realized I had a big piece of wood I could actually hit. Although what's funny is I usually don't do that on my glass rockets. I don't put any backer in for the rail buttons, and this rocket is so light that totally doesn't need it. But since it's there and it was basically the right spacing for where I would have put the rail buttons anyway, went ahead and drilled an 1/8 inch hole in the center of each one of those centering rings, and then just screwed the rail buttons in. So we're gonna tape off these fins and do some fillets. And just like that, all the fillets are done. And if you were wondering why I'm using JB Weld, it's because it's basically pre-thickened epoxy and I don't have to do anything to it. It is more expensive per ounce than, say, me using my gallon of West Systems over there, but basically I can use it straight out of the tube. I think I paid $8 for that 2 1-ounce tubes of the JB Quick, and I'm just gonna I'm gonna let these dry a little bit more. They're dry to the touch, but they're not ready to sand yet. So I'm gonna let them set and then sand them, and then it's gonna be ready to paint. And since the rest of this is fiberglass and it's not gonna need very much filling, I really didn't want to mess with mixing up West Systems and the colloidal silicone and all that. And the main reason that I used the JB Weld is because it's like pre-thickened 5-minute epoxy. I can't really add filler to my 5-minute Bob Smith epoxy or the West G5 or whatever I'm using. So that really allows me to just do all the like I just did all those fillets in like 15 minutes. So because I think the JB Quick cures in 6 minutes or something. So basically this is ready for paint. Right now it weighs 24.6 ounces, which is perfect. So really this rocket hadn't been available for a while, and so when I saw that Madcow had some in stock, I pretty much had to get it because I don't know if I've brought this up on the channel yet, but I had a PML AMRAM 2, the 2-inch AMRAM, for almost, well, at least 15, or I guess I had it for 15 years. So I got that for my 9th birthday and put dozens of the old Econojet F20, F23s in it, put G64s in it, G79 and G77 reloads when those came out. And then I started putting H motors in it, H128s, H165s, H220s, H180s, pretty much every 29 180 and 240 H motor I ran through it. And I probably flew that rocket close to 100 times. I didn't keep logs, but it was like the one rocket I had when I was a kid that made it through everything. And I actually used it for my level 1 cert with an H238. So that's pretty cool. Unfortunately, I decided to put a really old G80 in it, like from the early 90s. And I didn't replace the black powder, and it came in ballistic, and I actually never even got the pieces back because it went into a field with long grass. So since then, that was sort of my, I'm gonna bring this rocket with me, and I can, you know, if the weather's bad, I can put a G motor in it, low cloud ceiling. If, you know, I just want a cheap flight. I've flown all my other rockets, and want to fly one more thing before I go home. That was an easy rocket to go buy an H motor, put in, and it was kind of the perfect size, easy to transport, doesn't take up any room, still goes kind of high, but not so high you can't see it. So I kind of just did everything. So since then, I've been looking for a replacement for because I didn't want to get another AMRAAM because I felt like it, like it wouldn't be the same. That rocket had a lot of history. One of my other really old rockets is an old Polecat 5.5 inch Nike Smoke. So I realized that a 2.6 Nike Smoke would be the next logical thing to replace that AMRAAM 2. So this is 2.6 inch, but basically the same weight as the AMRAAM. And it has a 38 mount, so I can put a little bit bigger motor in it. Although I don't think it's really gonna, with these 16-inch fins, I don't think it could really take more than a 3-grain eye. But it's nice to have that option. Plus the option to use an adapter. I can fly all the 29s, plus the 38-240 loads. Even the 1-grain G motors on the 38s. So that's cool too. So that's the story of why this is the perfect rocket that I didn't have in my fleet. Or this rocket is filling a missing hole in my fleet. So I can fly this at the park, I can take it to Argonia, put an I motor in it, I can fly, I don't have to plan ahead to fly this. I can easily afford an H motor while I'm on the field, regardless of what the situation is. So, because there has been, after I lost that AMRAAM, there were a couple times where, I only brought rockets that were going over 10,000 feet, and we had a 3,000 foot cloud ceiling, and I basically didn't have anything to fly. And even if I wanted to put a smaller motor in some of those rockets, they were bigger rockets. So, I was going to put an M in it. Okay, I could buy a high thrust K, but like that's a lot of money for something I wasn't really planning on, or a flight that I really wanted. This is like effortless to go buy a G motor and keep it under a cloud ceiling if I have to, and still have a good time. So that's what this rocket is for. Yeah, it's basically done. So I'm gonna sand these fillets, and then we'll throw some paint on it and see what it looks like after that. And here it is all finished. This is the Madcow 2.6 inch Nike Smoke. And as I said before, this really does fill the perfect gap in a high power rocket lineup. Or if you wanted a rocket just for your level 1 size, this is a great fit. I flew this back in April at Cloudburst on an H165 Redline, and it went about 2,000 feet and came right back. And it was honestly a perfect flight profile. I'll probably give this a steady die to H's. At some point I'd like to put an I in it, but I think I have a clip of the H165 flight from Cloudburst, so let's go check that out. That flight was so good. As you can see, I have a different backdrop. I moved, I sold my house, paid off all my debt, and I have a smaller garage now. But that's only part of the reason I haven't made any videos in the past 6 months or so. So hopefully I finally am getting a rocket area working again, so we can get going on doing more rocket things. Obviously the Nike Hercules is still here. Hopefully we can get that finished by the end of this winter, but so stay tuned for videos on all that, and we'll catch you next time.